Hello and welcome to the third part of the social media lectures in our Politics of Code. So the lecture was a general introduction to the topic of social media. Then we had the first small tutorial how to set up the Wikimedia engine. And now I want to show you a bit more in detail how to actually work on the real Wikipedia and not just on our throwaway installation on our own server. So this is the main page of the English Wikipedia. As you all know it, we are not logged in, but we can actually edit. So Wikipedia doesn't require to be logged in to do edits. However, it is strongly discouraged. It is always better to show who you are, to own your words. We will come to the downsides of that a bit later. I can tell you that although you might face personal discussions that might not be too pleasant, it is much more likely that your edits will be kept and not reversed if you show who you are. Because if you are an anonymous user just changing things, people will be very suspicious. You might remember the special pages button. If we go here, we have all the administrative pages. I mean, since we are not logged in, we have no special rights. But this is what everybody can see. You can look, for example, on all the pages that have issues, that have mechanical issues, basically, like, for example, broken links. And you can just go and help here. You can just start working on these issues, and that if you are logged in and have your name, so to say, you have your username, gives you credit. Then people see that you are not just a troll, but you actually want to contribute to make Wikipedia better. Wikipedia is a community project. This is the only way by which you can get into the Wikipedia community. It is by merit. It is a meritocracy. So the more you do, the more people will accept what you do. So, and of course, if you're an administrator, you can filter here edits by anonymous users and just check. So let's just see how we edit something. Let's pull up a page that I started here on Wikipedia. I don't know if anyone else ever looked at that page. You can look at that looking at the history and just check who contributed to that page other than myself, and you see, oh, very interesting, there's a lot of people actually contributing to that. So we can look at the history and compare what people did to change it. So you see, for example, that here an edit changed the neo-Baroque to Baroque revival architecture for the little church. I mean, that's a minor edit, but I mean, I think it is quite meaningful to have things like that being consistent. You can compare arbitrary versions of the article. So this is the latest versions, and then you just go back to the version to which you want to compare it, and then you see what has been changed in the meantime. So this is the revision history. That's very useful, I think, in particular if you realize that there was some mistake made, maybe in your own edits or so, and to go back and look how that played out, how that evolved. So let's just look at the code. So this is how we can edit the article. I mean, if you look at the page, how it looks like. So the name of the page is called a lemma. So lemma is the title under which you find a lexical entry in an encyclopedia, in a dictionary. So that's called lemma. The plural is lemmata. So it's a Greek word. And so lemma is a brief proposition For example, it is a theorem that is part of a chain of theorems, for example, in mathematics. So this is the lemma. And then you see formatting, the first time your lemma appears in the text, this lemma is in bold. And we can check how the syntax looks like. Going to the edit page. Here the warning, we are not logged in. So better be logged in, I'll show you in a second. And you see here, so the word Stockdorf, this is the lemma. To make it bold, it's just these 3 apostrophes. And you will immediately see also with these equal signs to mark a heading or a section. That is very similar to the markup language that you are familiar with on GitHub, for example. I mean, it's no surprise, clearly, that is a very common form of having a simple markup language. See also the boxy brackets to mark links. For an internal link that links within Wikipedia, you just put in the name of the lemma. So Gauting is another lemma, that is the municipality of which Stockdorf is part, and so on. And then you have curly brackets. Curly brackets insert a template. And what we use here is the info box for German location template. So that is a pre-formatted list of properties that the object that your lemma should display. And you see that is then displayed in the form of a box, of an information box to the right-hand side. And there's a lot of templates like that. If you go further down, you see, for example, the references which are in the template reference list. And if you go into the article, you see that the references are referenced with the reference tag. See here, for example, this is a reference. And so that it is not cluttered, these will be then displayed all together in a bibliography, so to say, in the references here. Wikipedia articles should not contain external links. So if you want to have an external link, for example, to a website, you have to put that in a separate section that is called, for example, web links or further links or whatever, or you could put it into the references. And then you see that the article is also categorized being part of this district and showing these archaeological features. So you have a category, and if you look here, the categories are showing up here. And if you click on that, you get usually a list of other articles that fall into that category. So it's very useful if you want to have your article as being part of a collection to use the category that people more easily find it. It's also really important for Google because Google, in the Google search, that will indicate that your article is more important and will show up more likely. So now let's just change to be logged in. So we're logging in. You of course have to create a username. And then now we can edit under our own name, and we can also visit our own page. So this is my user page. The user page can be edited in exactly the same way as any other page on Wikipedia, so you use exactly the same syntax. You can, for example, integrate templates. So I integrate the Babel template. That is a template that many users integrate, which is this box that shows which languages you can contribute and where you live. If you look at that, it's exactly what I put in here. And what what is in particular important is that you use your own namespace, so you can have subpages under your username. For example, if you just put in another page, I mean, you just go in the title and just, for example, say article. This is not very original, so this doesn't exist yet, so you have to create it, and then can of course format it like that. You can preview what you want to edit. You see how that will look like, and then you can publish it. Publishing under your own namespace, I mean, unless you do things that are illegal, or you advertise or shout out political opinions, no one will care. So this is your space. You can do things as you like here, and this is very handy because this is where you start drafting articles. So you start an article, for example, don't want to keep that. So you have an article in mind. So you just say, well, I always wanted to write an article about article, and then you put that in exactly in that way that I have already here with the sandbox. You say special my page that leads to your namespace, and say then article. Publish the changes. Now we can click on that, and this page doesn't exist yet. So you can start now to draft it, to come up with your own draft article. And I can only advise you that you should, if you want to start a new article in the Wikipedia, that the article, before you go into the main Wikipedia, should be reasonably ready. If you just start typing, well, this is an article that I just write, people will see that and will say, well, this is not ready for being displayed. So do your article in your own namespace, and it's nothing wrong in asking other people, like your friends or so, to read over it if it is actually good. And then you copy and paste the text into the main Wikipedia. So if we go into the main Wikipedia, and type in a lemma on something that doesn't exist yet, like my made up new article that doesn't exist, and you click on that, you get into the create a new article dialog. So you can create the article here from scratch, but as I say, don't do that. Best is that you have already the article halfway ready, and then you copy and paste that from your user sandbox into this article. And once you then press publish page, it's out there and people will start reviewing it. So the review process is something that is definitely worthwhile talking a bit more in detail. If your article will be kept or not has a lot to do with if it is regarded relevant. And of course, relevance is a very arbitrary criterion. I mean, it is one thing is relevant for the one that is not relevant at all for another person. And the process of what the people on Wikipedia see as relevant or as dismissible is very obscure. It is not a democratic process. There is no clear votes going on Wikipedia. And I mean, how would you do that anyway? I mean, since in theory you can have as many user accounts as you want, so what would the vote be tied to? So it is a process of discussion, a grassroots process that is very much dominated by people who have earned their merit by many edits. And it's very hard to penetrate it, to change that. So people who have been on Wikipedia for a long time have much more to say and have a much higher voice, a higher vote in these discussions than any of you would have if you just have joined. If you want to look for things that are kind of internal to Wikipedia, you can search for that by putting Wikipedia : in front of the search term in the search box. Let's just look for relevance. And here you have the criteria. Here you can learn what is relevant and what is not. These criteria change. It doesn't stay the same all the time, and that makes sense. I mean, the world changes. And it's very much also tied to the topic. So things in one field might be seen as relevant that are totally irrelevant in another field, in particular regarding people. So generally it is very difficult to add living people to Wikipedia. With dead people it's a bit more lenient, but then still always check if the person you want to add isn't flagged already as being not so relevant after all. It's always worth checking. Yeah, and just to show you, I mean, how bizarre that can be, let's just look at a very famous person who has long been dead, Nicolaus Copernicus, who lived 500 years ago. And you might think, I mean, yeah, Copernicus, I mean, what's controversial about him? Clearly everyone knows his contribution in coming up with the first idea, widely spread, of a heliocentric universe, so that the Earth would go around the Sun and not the Sun around the Earth. So it's a figure of the early modernity, when things started to change, so to say, in favor of science and enlightenment. So all these positive things. So what is then controversial about him? Well, it is where he was born. And you see that already in the attempt to give him a proper name. Because the problem is that when Copernicus was born, the city where he was born was part of the Kingdom of Prussia, which then became Polish, then was occupied by Germany again. And if you think of the really difficult history that Germany and Poland had over the last 250 years, starting with the Polish division, then partly occupying Polish territory by Prussia first, and then Prussia and Austria, and then dividing Poland between Russia and Austria and Prussia, and then the horrible history of the 20th century with the German occupation of Poland in the Second World War, was one of the most brutal genocides that ever happened, including, of course, the Holocaust. Then you understand that it is not just about stupid ethno-nationalism what's going on here. There is more behind that on both sides. So this is really a very political topic. And if you look at the discussion page on the tab Talk, you see that, if you try to edit Copernicus, sorry, that's wrong. If you try to edit Copernicus, even as a logged-in user, you will see that the page is locked. So it is protected. You can not just go in and edit. You have to, so to say, suggest edits and have to be already a kind of an administrator that has been confirmed. Yeah, so the talk page gives you an insight. Clearly there is like years of discussion, of very vitriolic discussion about Copernicus nationality. And that even led to once suggesting that the Copernicus article should be deleted totally. I mean, imagine that. It was so bad. And so the articles for deletion discussion, so this is the namespace for that, Wikipedia articles for deletion. This is where you go and learn about community dynamics on Wikipedia. This is really very interesting. You should not just read it to become angry, which is very, very easy. It is really interesting to see how social media dynamics in general work. I mean, because what we have in Wikipedia is not a corporation. So there is no lawful way, so to say, to go up here. There is no, for example, Office of Inclusion. There is no Obmann for gender equality or anything like that. It is just the users themselves who have to figure out their conflicts, and there is no body to mediate that. There is no one there who can say, well, come on, let's just stop that here and go home and start over again tomorrow. This is not how it works. Everyone is there in for themselves. And you can imagine that if that is something that is very close to your heart, the discussion can become really, very difficult. I'll show you a more recent example of that. So there is Clarice Phelps. So Clarice Phelps is a nuclear physicist. I have no idea about how important her work was in discovering a new chemical element and so on. This is not my problem. I show you that because it is one of these pages that has had a long time ongoing deletion discussion, and that led even to the full deletion of the article. So if we go here to the article milestones, you see that the article in 2019 was proposed for deletions, and then there was a discussion about that. Then the deletion actually happened. The article was deleted and then was reinstalled after there was a public outcry about it. And the interesting thing here, if you read through the article in deletion discussion, is how much is not at all about the person, if they were important enough or not. It is really a personal war of the different editors here, in particular regarding canvassing. So if you look at canvassing, canvassing is a political practice. It is that you go from house to house or to your friends and ask for support for your political cause. And of course, if your article is flagged for deletion, you might ask your friends to help you in the discussion because you don't want to face that alone. I did that quite often when I faced what I thought unjust deletion discussions. So how do you do that? Maybe you write a tweet. And what probably most people don't know, there is a canvassing guideline in Wikipedia. And if you look at what is seen appropriate or inappropriate, that's totally blurry. Mass posting is inappropriate. What does that even mean? Is sending out a tweet a mass posting or whatever? You will see that in the discussion about Clarice Phelps, that is exactly what was actually being fought over. Because people who wanted the article to stay obviously asked their friends to help. And then the question is the message bias that you send. Of course it is. How could it not be? And your audience partisan. Of course it will be partisan. People of course, share your opinion. You will not invite your enemies to support you in supporting your article. Yeah, inappropriate. That is just such a loaded term. So, of course, the consequence that has is that Wikipedia faces in an accelerated way what the society as a whole faces. So there is embedded prejudice and biases that had been in the Wikipedia in the beginning, And since the people who were there for a long time, who have been there for a long time, have more to say, it's very hard to change that. And that leads, for example, to very well-known bias. So this is a recent paper about who gets into Wikipedia as being a notable sociologist and who gets deleted and not even mentioned. And this article is very clear that this bias, that it is basically, so if you look at the number here, and here is the percentage of white men, that number has not changed. It's basically more or less stable. There's a bit more women, maybe there's like 1 or 2 more women now being put in compared to the men. And if you face that, of course, as a user, you want to contribute and you realize how biased the community is, you might not feel invited. And so this is a self-perpetuating problem. So Wikipedia perpetuates the problem of bias by being not very inclusive. And how can it be inclusive? If it is anonymous, if it is grassroots, if it is so much of a meritocracy. And I want to show you a particularly disturbing example of that in a whole Wikipedia that is regarded to be biased. The example I want to share with you is the Croatian Wikipedia. Has its own Wikipedia entry here because, as you find already in the second paragraph, the Croatian Wikipedia obviously had been started right away with a very strong political bias, and over time has become stronger and stronger, dominated by fascists, by hardcore ethno-nationalists with a very strong right-wing view. And I bet this is not the only Wikipedia that faces this problem. So I only show it to you because I have some relationship to it and to Croatia with friends who pointed me out to that. And if you look at that, it shows you how difficult it is to correct things like that. So the history, what happened here is that basically the core of people who started the Croatian Wikipedia, right in the beginning of when Wikipedia it started, after all, from the beginning, and created this very right-wing environment. And now, if you want to participate in Wikipedia, of course, you have to face that. But there is no oversight. There is no one correcting that. You can't just go there and sue people or whatever. It is just deeply embedded. It is a problem that is probably impossible to resolve. So just dig a bit deeper into that. Read the interesting literature that is referred to it, not so much really to blame. It has nothing to do with Croatia as a country. It is just a very good example how a right-wing and ethno-nationalist community can easily, in this way, dominate Wikipedia as they dominate other social media. Since those people usually don't have very fine manners, it's very easy for them to push out editors because, in the end, it's only Wikipedia. Usually no one actually needs to face all this vile hatred, all this ugliness also. If you encounter that, you just shrug and say, okay, you can do your Wikipedia on your own. I'm not interested in that anymore. And that is the problem. It is a voluntary project. It is a volunteer project. So you need people's goodwill to participate. And if you are not feeling welcome, you might just shrug and leave. Wikipedia, the Wikimedia Foundation, and many people in Wikipedia, of course, want to work against that. So there is a very strong movement to make Wikipedia a better place. And one way to do that is a editathon. So the editathon is, of course, a made-up word from hackathon. It is inviting people you know, like for example us here in the class, to jointly do things on Wikipedia so that you are strong together and you look at things that maybe small things to start with and make them better. And then when that worked out, when you have learned the mechanics and the culture of it, maybe next time you do an editathon that addresses political issues. And the great thing is then no one is on their own. Everyone in the editathon is together. And so your word will be heard and you will be taken more seriously. And also, you have other people to help you if someone assaults you, verbally, to be witness of that and support you in replying to that and maybe escalating that to the administrators. So, and I really hope that we can have an editathon here in our class, because I think it is a very meaningful way of contributing to Wikipedia, which for me is continuously serving as the most interesting example of social media. It is truly created social. It has all the greatness that a crowd project can show. we use it all the time. It has also all the darkness and all the difficulties. And so it is really everything like in a sandbox that you need to know about social media.